Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Of course, you guys know I am your hostess with the mostest, Miss J, aka Miss Simone Jackson, here to bring you guys another great episode of the J Lounge. Of course, everyone knows the J Lounge is a celebrity-based podcast show where we talk with actors, directors, trainers, you name it, they all come down here and they all have a wonderful time. And before I introduce my next guest, as always, I'm very excited for it. I just want to give a quick couple of announcements for the J Lounge. We are now going to be able to share and air on Roku. You heard that right. So now my podcast will be able to be aired and seen on Roku, as well as PR packets for the podcast are now up and available. So if you would like to have any more information on that, please give me an email. I will drop that at the end of the podcast. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce my next guest. He is a personal trainer here to talk about his goals, his accomplishments, and why, it's a benefit. Getting a personal trainer is a benefit for you. Everyone, please give a super warm welcome to Derick Santiago. Hi, Derick.
Hey, what's going on, love? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're supposed to get a lot of snow over here in Atlanta, but it's just sunny and cold.
I was gonna say, I hope that look, knock on wood. Knock on wood, okay? Praying for you guys. Well, I appreciate you for giving me your time here today. I'm very excited to be speaking with you. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire off the first question at you, Derick. What began your passion for personal training? Where did this come from?
So actually, I've been into fitness ever since I was about like 12, 13 years old when my dad woke me up one day out of the blue during the summertime. He just woke me up out my sleep, made me come downstairs and had me started doing these dumbbell exercises just out of nowhere. And then from there, my cousin started to train me, and then I also played sports all throughout my life, mostly basketball, because I'm originally from New York City, so basketball is big there. And fitness has just been part of who I am since I can remember at 12 years old, from my dad waking me up, making me lift weights, to my cousin then taking it on, to then me just going through various different coaches and training camps. Fitness has always been a big part of my life, and it still is a big part of my life. Even as a first time dad, I now understand that it does change a little bit, but as ever since I can remember, I've always been into fitness, exercise, athletics, sports. That's just who I am and how it's always been.
Oh, I'm laughing over here because that is something my brother would do. Wake up at the break of dawn and have everybody else wake up with him. We're gonna go ahead and do some exercise or hit the dumbbells. And it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. So just yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I don't even know if my dad remembers that. I just was like, people ask that all the time. And I was over here. I just remember like it was the summertime, and I was just chilling, hanging out during the rest of summer. Then one day, he just came into the room, woke me up, and said, "Come downstairs." And I remember I was like in pajamas and a tank top, having me Arnold presses, these curls, and these push-ups, and these jumping jacks, and I was like, "Did I do something wrong? Like, am I?"
Like what's going on here? Like, are you training me for something? Should I know? Should I
He
be aware? I love that. That is
still.
hilarious. This is exactly. Look, don't get me wrong. I love my older brother. But that's exactly something he would do, and I just like. I don't understand with all the fitness lovers. Why do you guys start earlier and earlier during your workout? Oh my goodness. Uh, then we go on to the next question for you, Derek. Can you name three people who influenced your career and why?
Say that one more time.
Oh, yes. I said, can you name three people who influenced your career and why?
So three people that influenced my career would have to be one, my dad.
Love it.
He's the one that got me into the fitness to the fitness space. I would say to my cousin because he's actually been my trainer ever since like my dad started working in New York and DC. He's always sent me workouts. To this day, he still sends me workouts. And when I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., there was a dude named Brandon Hill that I was cool with. He was an upperclassman, but he was one of the first came to Howard. And like a couple of years later, I saw that he became like a personal trainer. He was like these cool, like, yo, man, like I really want to do this. Like, I really want to get into this. So he really inspired me to actually.
You still there, Derek? Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, okay, please go. Yes, please continue.
Yeah, no. So like I was saying, like the last, it was my dad, my cousin, and the last dude was his name was Brendan Hill. Somebody I went to Howard University with. He got me into personal training because he was a personal trainer, and I knew him. Although like I was he was a couple of years ahead of me. I just when he was one of the first people that I met, and he was a trainer doing these cool push up tricks and exercises. And I was just like, yo, man, that looks really, really cool. Like I really want to get into this. And he was a big part of me becoming a personal trainer.
I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that the dad, even though he still woke you up in the middle of the of the
Yeah,
morning,
man.
is I was saying earlier, what is it about fitness lovers, personal trainers that just love to start earlier in their workout? Isn't 8 o'clock not early enough?
Well, to answer that question, honestly, like I've always been an early riser. Like I always used to wake up between like 5 and 6 in the morning. I still kind of do now. It's a little bit, different being a dad, but
Yeah,
I've always woke up that early, and I like to get things started ASAP.
yeah,
Like,
true.
that's just how I am. Like and then even being a career trainer, you'd be surprised how many people just, they're the same way because they have to be at work at like between like 8, 9 o'clock. So they just try to get their workout done like first thing in the morning. And personally, I think it's a great way to just like wake up, get the blood flowing, get some natural energy, get the heart rate
This is
going.
true. This is true.
No,
That's fair. No, that's totally fair. That is a way to get the heartbeat going, get the blood pumping. That is a very, very good way to start off. Really good way to start off the day. Really, get your workout in, and it pretty much gets you prepared for the rest of the day. So
yeah.
that's fair. That's fair. That actually brings me to my next question, Derek. Describe your workout style.
So my workout style is mostly strength based, mixed with functional fitness and athletic training. Um, I do a lot of calisthenics, and weightlifting, but I also do some unconventional training with like some clubs, some mace bells, kettlebells. What else do I use? I like to use a lot of battle ropes, and I like to play basketball. Like that's one of my things. I like to play basketball because regular cardio, like running on a treadmill, kind of bores me. But
Right.
I'll run up and down a basketball court and do that all day. But that's my style of overall training. I'm a naturally slim guy, so gaining weight and putting on muscle is a little bit harder for me. So I don't always, before I used to lift like really heavy weight, 'cause I used to be on Instagram and like TikTok. Well, just before TikTok, I used to be on like Instagram and just watching and Instagram and YouTube and watching these. And I was a big fan of like bodybuilding and powerlifters, but I didn't like eating like a bodybuilder. That was just too much.
Hmm.
And I just love to see people move like really, really like heavyweight. So I got into that for a little bit, but I wasn't really putting on a lot of size until I started to mix the strength and the bodybuilding together. And I actually learned that from this guy named Mike Rashid on YouTube. He was a big inspiration of mixing bodybuilding and strength training together, which I then adapted along with adding my own athletic background, the stuff that I did in basketball practice. And, when I got bored with lifting weights, because I don't know about other trainers or other people, but sometimes lifting weights could get boring. To keep it fun and interesting, I would start swinging clubs, I would start swinging kettlebells, and I would start mixing up my workouts and combining all of those aspects into it to get my training style.
I love that. I love that. And I'm actually with you. We're just running on the treadmill does bore me. I need something. I like to have my workout style to be switched up. Like maybe 10, 15 minutes doing some crunches, 10, 15 minutes doing some lunges or whatever. But yours definitely sounds like a reasonable workout for those who want to, get into it or who wants to maybe intensify it a little bit more. So it doesn't seem complex at all.
No, and it's interesting that you said that because my philosophy, I have a few philosophy. One of my philosophies on fitness is fitness made simple. I try to make fitness as simple as possible
Hmm.
because I want people to do it and I want people to
Yes.
stick with it. Like that as a trainer, that was always my main goal, like making sure that you're able to do the exercises and follow the program and then stick with it. I also would teach classes, and if I taught a class, yeah, I'll probably do some like extra stuff or, some like really extreme different things just to make it more fun and exciting. But when I would just have one-on-one clients and programs, I will always keep it as simple as possible. I'll sometimes throw some crazy stuff in there just to spice it up a little bit, but I
Yeah.
always wanted to keep it simple just because you fitness doesn't have to be that complicated. But for a lot of people, especially people that aren't athletes or this isn't their thing, but they're trying to make it their thing, they're trying to get part of this lifestyle, the simpler that it is, I realized the easier they'll stick with it and the easier they can retain a lot of the information because there's a lot of information out there that confuses people. Some people say this exercise does this, but not to do this exercise. One exercise has 100 different names, and people just get very, very turned off and intimidated. And I was just like, and they'll stop. They'll just completely
It's
stop,
true
shut
though.
down, and
True.
I'm like, no, like it doesn't have to be that way. Like you wanna get stronger, you can literally do these five exercises, and they're like just these five exercises. I'm like, honestly, yes, it's not that complicated. All this,
No.
I'm like, all this other stuff is just a little bit more intense things
Thank
that
you.
people do, or more detailed things that people do to target different muscles or get a specific type of muscle to work. But if you're not there yet, that's fine. You can definitely get there. Like in basketball, it was always master the fundamentals. You master the fundamentals, you can then build upon that and start doing, extra things. It's the same
True.
thing with fitness. You master the fundamentals, you master the basics. Everything else after that will thus become easier.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. When I hear about like the P90X intensity things, it's just like, why are people doing this? But I know that for some people who if they've been exercising for too long, they do get bored, so they want to do things, that challenge them. But sometimes some of the things they do to challenge themselves when it comes to exercising is a little bit too much. So sticking to just something basic like 5 steps is as Derick said, is all sometimes what you need. You don't need to do all of that other stuff unless of course you want to and you want to add that extra intensity. It's just not requirement to get stronger.
No, totally. And with P90X, I've done P90X, and I was always like, P90X is, don't get me wrong, it's intense, and it definitely attracts a certain crowd of people. But it's, I don't want to say it's like a fad, but like fat, and if you're on Instagram and TikTok now, like trendy and fad exercise programs are like the thing. Same
Yep.
thing with like
So is.
diets.
Hmm.
So people see it, it can get a little culty sometimes, but people see it, and that's why they like jump on there. And I would tell people, yes, these things will definitely get you results up into a certain point. It's
Yep.
not it's not designed for specific targeted goals. You get what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
it's designed for like one general overall purpose, mostly like okay, like it's mostly weight loss because here in America, mostly every like more than the half of the average person, more than half of Americans are overweight, and the
This
number
is
one
true.
leading disease. The number one cause of death is cardiovascular disease. So a lot of people have to lose weight. So a lot of these exercises are geared towards that. And even with cardio, if you're a bit of a bigger person or have a little bit more, I would say like more fat mass compared to muscle mass, doing cardio, you will lose weight up until a certain point. And even if you're doing these classes, that are very like cardio condition based, you will lose weight up until a certain point, but then your body will adapt and you won't lose any weight anymore. Your
Yes.
conditioning will get stronger, your cardiovascular system will get stronger, but you won't lose any weight. And then you have to thus now start changing your exercise into strength based focus. So when you're doing a lot of these high intensity workouts, there's gonna always be a cap when especially if you're a certain size, if that makes any sense.
Hmm. It does. No, it does. It does. It does. And that's also, the reason why, like I said, a lot of people that go to P90X because doing just the same thing, their body get used to it after a while. But I am more than happy to stick with just five basic exercise. It's okay. I don't need to do all of that extra stuff. No, 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 no. Looks fun from a distance. I'll just keep from a distance. That's all. That's where I will be. Derick, I want to make sure my audience keeps up with you and your work. Where are you on social media?
So I'm mostly on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram, Derick Derick Santiago Santiago. It's all one word underscore.
Perfect, perfect. And of course, I highly encourage my audience, make sure you follow Derick on Instagram and Threads as well. Derick Santiago, Brian, you said Bryson Santiago, right? For the thing?
So my Instagram is just Derick Santiago, and
Perfect.
at the end of it is underscore. Like I said, DerickSantiago underscore. That's my Instagram handle.
And I highly encourage my audience to follow, give a shout out, support, like if you have any exercise questions or any questions about possibly getting a personal trainer, please, please reach out to Derick. I'm pretty sure he'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys
Yes, hit me up.
have. See, going on to the next question. Derick, what future projects are you involved with that you can give a dish about to the J Lounge audience?
So right now I'm in the process of becoming more skilled at becoming a stretch therapist.
Mm,
And I'm also in school finishing up my kinesiology degree because my end goal is to go to graduate school and get a degree and become a sports psychologist.
holla. Yes, yes, yes. That's what I'm talking about, Derek. Say a lot of people in the back.
Yes, man. Sports psychology being a career personal trainer for about like 9 years. I've realized you're like a therapist. And I originally went to school to become a family therapist. That's what I actually started going to school for originally. And then I had to take some time off and I became a personal trainer after I was working at this law firm. But a lot of my clients would express, a lot of personal things to me, and I would give my input. And like I said, a lot of them would be like, "Yo, you're like a therapist," and I would explain like how like fitness can help people get through a lot of humps and just build
Yes.
confidence and encouragement. And one of my clients was over here like, one of my clients, she was actually a psychologist, and she was trying to get me to get back into psychology, and she was just like, "Why don't you just fuse psychology in sports?" And I didn't know that existed until she told me because I wanted to become a physical therapist actually. And the only thing that turned me off to becoming a physical therapist was saying when they was telling I had to do clinicals, they was over here like, yeah, working in a hospital, you might have to clean up people. And I was over here like, oh, no, I don't want to do that.
I
That's
don't
what
blame you.
nurses are for. And they were just like, yeah, but if it's busy and somebody makes a mess on themselves as the PT, you're gonna have to clean them up. And I was just like, yeah, no. Like, I have a 1 year old toddler right now, and I'm just like, I got to do this to a whole adult. No, I'm good.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I'm good. I was like, let me look up sports psychology. Let me see this. And then I realized they both make six figures around the for same money. I was over here like, yeah, I got to go to school for the same amount of time anyway. So
Might as
I'll,
well.
yeah.
As well. No, I totally understand you, and I totally understand you. And I didn't realize that there was physical therapist psychologist, right?
Well, no, I just like I said, I wanted to be a physical therapist at first, but then I went to I went to a PTA school, physical therapist assistant school, and I was doing all this work, and they was telling me the whole process. And when they told me that one thing, I was over here like, yeah, no. But my client, who is a psychologist, she actually put me on to there's actually a thing that is called sports psychology and sports psychologists, and you can do
Yes.
that. And I was just like, really? And she was just like, yeah, like I wanted as a personal trainer, my end goal was always to I wanted to I want to work for a team. It's preferably basketball,
Yes.
high D1 to an NBA team just because I would love to be around the sport still. I would love to get those perks to maybe get like free game tickets or free season passes or just to be there around the athletes. And a big thing for me is to have access to these facilities. I really just wanted access to the facilities that they have for these athletes. And I'm over here like, yes, I would love to just be able to work out there, train these people there. Like I really, really wanted that. So that was always like the end goal to where like I love training my clients. I love training people out in the field, but I want to really transition into working with these like high level D1 to professional athletes.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Sports psychologist, for one, I didn't know there was one until you mentioned it. That's
Yeah, a
new.
lot of people
That's
don't.
new.
A lot of people don't.
That's new. But thinking about it, I think it is important to have a sports psychologist because as sports are becoming even more dominant thanks to social media and more prominent every single day, I think it is very important to be able to have someone, like you to be able to discuss, the physical aspects and the mental aspects of it because I feel like that's not always as discussed for sports and athletes. So,
Oh, it's not. Like, it's funny because I remember I was watching an interview about how LeBron James had to go went to a sports psychologist to develop like a killer instinct in the whole mental aspect of it. And I tell people, you think just because they're athletes, they make all this money that, they don't have feelings and they're just like these mythical people. And I'm like, these are still
right.
human beings that have feelings. And, when I first had my son, I got a therapist for a year and I didn't realize how much it helped because I was just like, oh, you're just paying to have a friend and therapy is BS and blah, 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 blah. And, I never really took mental health that seriously. But I know what it's like to be an athlete and get hurt,
Yep.
and you're so used to being active that you have to sit down for a while. You have to go through that
Yes.
resting process. You start second guessing your abilities. You're a little bit nervous. You're in a game. It's things. You may have a couple of bad games. You may miss a
Yep.
clutch shot. There's a whole mental aspect that athletes go through that it's in the past I would say the past maybe like 10 years that mental health in this space have been acknowledged, and I really want to be able to help and guide athletes to even maybe former athletes because I don't know if you saw, but there's a lot of former athletes that feel abandoned. And I'll use
Yeah.
Delonte West as an example that he went on this whole like drug binge, and people need help. People need somebody to talk to them. People need some empathy and some compassion. And I want to be able to provide that because I know a little bit about it from firsthand experience. I have other friends that are former athletes that we talk about these things all the time, and I just want to be able to help these athletes with like their emotional aspects of the game because they already got the physical part down pat.
Hmm.
They wouldn't be where they are if they didn't have it, but just to more sort of make sure that their mental and their physical matches in one another.
Ah, you hit it right on the head, especially for those athletes who get injured. For some people, it's so easy to go, oh, well, they're injured. They'll probably just bounce back in the next 6 months or a year. but that doesn't cover the mental aspect of it, especially when you're an athlete who has lived and breathed a certain sport and you haven't stopped doing that certain sport. So just sitting down for months is, for normal people, it's like, oh, well, that's no big deal. That's quiet time, that's downtime, I can get things. But for someone who is used to moving every single day, practice, striving for perfection, really, because that's what sports is every single day. And when you're not doing that, the mental aspect of that can be absolutely devastating.
Oh yes, big
Absolutely
time.
devastating. So
It
this is important.
becomes very personal. It becomes very, very personal.
Yes, it does. It does. Like I said, especially when you live, breathe, that this is what you, only thing that you know, and you don't know anything else. It is taken away. It can be a very, very devastating mental blow. So I think you're right. Having that compassion, having that understanding, having that empathy can definitely help. Especially especially like someone like you who's already been in that position, who knows you can help younger athletes. Like, hey, look, no, even though this could happen to you, it's not the end of the road. There's
Yes.
still there's still light at the end of the tunnel. There's still other things that you can accomplish while either you're waiting for your recovery or you might have to do something else. There is it's possible. So yeah,
Yeah, totally
I
agree.
truly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Going on to the next question there, Derek. Outside of fitness, what other passions do you have?
I love traveling. Traveling has become a big, big passion of mine. Actually, when I got with my girlfriend during the pandemic in 2021, um, I loved to travel before, but she was the reason why I got a passport. And since we've been together, we've been to 11 countries, and our son has been to 4 countries. And one year we traveled every 2 to 3 months.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
my
like
dream. That's my dream right there.
yeah, traveling is a big, big passion of mine, and I would say ours. My girlfriend does it for her mental health, as she would say,
Yes.
and I love it for the experiences. I would say my mental health as well, but I just love it for the experiences and culture. I love different cultures. I love to learn about different cultures, experience different cultures. And I'm a big foodie. I go to different
Yep.
places to eat. Like I will keep it real. I love to eat. First thing I want to do is if they have a food tour, I need to be part of it. I love to try different foods, especially exotic foods. Oh man.
I'm right there with you though. I'm a big foodie too, so I just want to eat. That's really all I want to do. Honestly, that's honestly why I make sure to exercise because I know I love to
Yeah.
eat. It is the most. This is why I make sure to exercise if I know I love to eat. Oh my goodness, my goodness. All right, Derek, just got a couple more questions for you, then we'll wrap up. What goals do you hope to accomplish in your career that you haven't yet?
So right now, I'm looking to accomplish becoming more, like I said, I want to become more of a skilled stretch therapist. That's like my main goal as of right now. Um, I've been really big into getting into the recovery part of fitness. Like I said, I've been doing personal training for a very long time, but I feel like a lot of people forget about the recovery aspect of it. So I really want to just, get more hands-on training, be able to work with a little bit more people to where I can get a little bit more hands-on experience to where I'm doing like stretch recovery therapy. And I actually am trying to become a Pilates instructor as well.
You are
Yes.
looking to dominate every field. Okay,
Yes.
I see
Yes.
you. I see
Yes.
you there. You there?
You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
like I said, fitness, like I said, personal training is like, my bread and butter and it's cool, but like I've been doing it for like a very long time. Like I said, 9, almost 10 years. And, I look at a lot of the trainers and I'm like, okay, cool. Like I've seen and learned a lot of stuff. I also specialize in corrective exercise. I like to make sure people do things the right way with proper form. But even with my clients and firsthand experiences, I'm always asking them like, what are you doing after you work out or on your days off. And like, what do you mean? I'm like, are you getting a massage? Are you stretching? Are you taking your rest days? Like, recovery is a big part of this. You can't just work out all the time. Like that's not how getting results work. And people just don't do any of that stuff. And I'm over here like, that's part of fitness as well. Like, you need that to maintain the gains and the results that you got, or else everything will go backwards, or you'll just get sick, or you'll get hurt.
Yes.
We don't want that. So that's why stretching, even myself, I didn't stretch that much. And my girlfriend is a dancer, and she would make sure that I would stretch. And a lot of my friends that were yoga instructors would be like, you need to come take my class and you need to stretch. And I wanted to get into Pilates because Pilates would always kick my butt. Like, oh my goodness. I would be in there with these little slim, skinny women, and they would just be outdoing me with the little 3, 5 pound weights, and my strong ass is shaking and sweating profusely and try to do these little ab exercises and these flexibility. And I'm just looking at them and I'm over here like, y'all can't even do 5 push-ups. Why is these 3 pound dumbbells so hard? Like, why am I shaking? I'm in the back sweating and they're just sitting there loving it. Like, yes,
That is
break that
hilarious.
ego, break that male ego. And I'm just
Break
like,
the male ego.
I come in there with my little tight tank top and short shorts and the muscles popping, and I'm just in there
So
dying in the back, dying. But it feels great. It feels great after that. And like at the end of it, they're all so supportive. But I'm just like, you know what? I definitely need to do this more. And I've been taking a little bit more classes, still getting my ego checked. I'm not gonna front about that. Still getting my ego checked, but it's becoming more fun, more interesting, and starting to and understanding the benefits of Pilates. I was just like, you know what, this is definitely something that has to be implemented more into the recovery space, especially with like weightlifters and athletes especially athletes that do a lot of strength based and athletic performance, athletic based exercises like basketball players and football players for their overall recovery. If you can implement like stretching and Pilates into your along with yoga, I'm like, oh yeah, like you'll be a definitely well rounded person, especially when it comes to yoga and Pilates, having a very strong core, not just ab, but just a strong core, which is the center of your body. Pilates is amazing for that.
Yes, I agree. All I got was I got an image in my head of the scene in Martin when he was doing workout with Pam and Gina. That's what I got. You were
Yes,
saying you
yes,
were in the back.
yes, exactly. That's the
Like you came
perfect.
in there like, okay, I'm gonna show you ladies what's up, but like, nah. In the end, it's just-
Oh, like,
that
nah,
is
man.
hilarious. And you know you were wrong for your little short shorts. You
Yeah, man.
were
But
wrong for
I'm also coming in there because I'm like, I like to be comfortable. I always make sure like when you work out, wear comfortable clothing. So I was over here like, all right, cool. This is comfortable for me. But I'm like, I'm in a class full of these attractive women and stuff like that. Like, gotta show off a little bit. You Like I said, the male ego, and then you
that.
get
Look
in
at
there, and I'm
this.
just like, this is nothing. There's like, oh, where you got your weights? I was like 3 pound weights. I'm like, come on, miss. Like, do you not know what I bench? Do you not know what I squat? And I'm just sitting here holding these little lunge poses with my arms above my head, shaking. Like, why
Okay.
is this so hard? Why am I sweating so profusely? I'm like, this woman is like 5 feet, 100 pounds, soaking wet. Why does she make this look so easy? And I'm dying.
That is absolutely priceless. We gotta get video evidence next time. I swear, we
Yeah,
gotta get
man.
video evidence.
Oh man.
Oh, oh, Derek, you have been such an absolute blast to be able to speak with today. I'm so glad you gave me your time. I am definitely certain that my audience will definitely, support you, definitely reach out to you and follow you on social media. And yes, thank you for speaking with me today. This has been a really great conversation.
No, I appreciate. Thanks for having me.
You are You're welcome. And of course, everyone, you guys know I've been your hostess with the mostest, Miss J, aka Miss Simone Jackson. And of course, I want to highly encourage everyone to follow my guest, Derick Santiago. Make sure you follow him on Threads, on Instagram. Give him a support, give him a like, shout out. If you have any questions, reach out to him. Like he said, he will definitely be more than happy to answer. All right, you guys. I definitely want to give you guys one more reminder. So we will now be premiering on Roku as well as PR packets for the show is up and available. If you want any more information, just drop me an email. Until then, everyone, I want to thank my guests. I want to thank everyone for listening in, and I will be back with another great episode.
Yo,
Bye.
peace.